What's up, you beautiful chuds, and welcome to the Let's Talk Horror channel. Welcome to the Creep Zone, and welcome to Tales from the Creep Zone, my side series where I'm going through every episode of every season of the Tales from the Crypt series. As I always say on every episode, I was going to go through it all again on Shudder anyway, so why not bring you along on the journey? And what a journey it's been so far, and we've already now started season 3. With these episodes, of course, I will be talking about another 3 episodes in this series. We keep going until there's no more. But on this one, we're going to be talking about episodes 4, 5, and 6 of season 3. So let's get into episode 4. So episode 4 is called Abracadabra, a bitter medical researcher and his arrogant, successful surgeon brother. He works on a revenge plot involving a paralyzing voodoo serum, but is it all as it seems? Once again, voodoo, and there's going to be more on that as well. I think even in this episode, actually, like, Tales from the Crypt loves voodoo, right? More of it. So there you go. In this one already, Crypt Keeper, he's dressing up again now, this time as a surgeon. I think it's becoming sort of a running trend going forward, with especially with season 3. I've noticed a lot more that now he's starting to sort of dress up a lot more, which is fun, right? It's not something where you're like, now it's just become a gimmick. It might have. Guess what? It's a bloody fun one, so let's enjoy it. This one starts off pretty gross dead body already, and also naked women, and some bloke is being a weirdo, and I really don't like it straight away. Unfortunately, some of this series is very representative of the time where, as we know, women were sexualized for essentially no reason whatsoever. They don't like it. It just happened, right? Unfortunately, that's the way it was, and we start off with this one already. We got a naked dead body. They could have put a guy in there straight away. Well, they did, but then they obviously go at it, with do it again, but with a woman. Completely starkers, of course. That's just the way that it was, and it's just a shame. But then I don't know what can we do. We can't go back and change it. We can only keep going forwards and going from there. But yeah, some guy's been a bloody weirdo. Like, he's unfortunately doing things that just make you feel uncomfortable. But it is all a prank, but it doesn't go great because he has a heart attack but doesn't die. Basically, you've got you've got a brother who's the arrogant one, who has set up this elaborate prank on his older brother, and then the brother has a heart attack. So it sort of backfires on him big time. This one doesn't even feel like an episode with a story to really begin with, and quite a lot of this episode sort of doesn't. Like, it does have a sort of core concept there, but it just almost feels like a bit nothing. Like, they're like, this is what it's going to be, and then we just work things around it. That's what it sort of feels like. Then randomly, obviously, like I mentioned, we do get a voodoo ritual thing happens, which does feel very out of place in this episode. It's like, how do we get this to work? Voodoo, that's how we do it. The common go-to with Tales from the Crypt. And then because of it, and everything that's happening, obviously, at this moment, you're thinking that this is all a big revenge plot from the older brother for what the younger, arrogant brother did to him. Well, now he's got his own back on the younger, arrogant brother, by doing this voodoo stuff on him. And now this guy's had a heart attack, and he's inside. He's basically using the reanimator serum, which is obviously like a bright green serum, and essentially he is still alive inside a body that is no longer sort of alive. The body can't move, but his mind, everything. So a lot of the perspective of the episode is like a voiceover sort of thing, where you've essentially got a dead person who's still alive on the inside. It has its moments, but the moments are very few and in between. And of course, reanimator liquid is never a good news for anyone. But there's so much talking in this episode as well. Like I said, it just feels very much like an episode where they were like, well, let's do this. This is going to be the idea, the concept, and once again, we'll work around it. There's a lot of dialogue. It's dialogue heavy, and you sort of are like, well, let's get on with it a little bit with this episode. Also, thinking about it, like I mentioned, like imagine how weird it would be in this situation. So, like sometimes you watch horror movies, TV shows, or whatever, and you start to think to yourself, yeah, that would be like pretty horrible to be like that. And yeah, absolutely, to be alive and everybody else presumes that you're dead or whatever, and then you're still in there, and then of course you can still feel all the pain, because obviously that's something that is a big part of this as well, is that he feels all the pain still, but they obviously don't know, and it's all messed up anyway. But lo and behold, uh, after all of this and everything that's happening, it turns out to be another prank. Because remember at the start of the episode where the younger brother pranked the older brother? Well, roles reversed. He now pranks him. But then, sadly, for him, he does actually have a real heart attack. But then the older brother does end up injecting him with reanimator juice again, and like sort of like to try and keep him alive, I sort of guess. But he is. But then it's basically it ends up he's in the same situation. He's still alive in mind, but his body's dead, and he still basically has to deal with all the pain. But it was just a weird one. It's very dialogue heavy, and it just feels like they just had the basic idea and basically worked around it. I don't really like the episode. A lot of it, a lot of episodes that don't work are the episodes where you go, well, what was the point in that? Like at least it's an episode. At least you can watch it. It's not as if, I mean, that's the same with pretty much every Tales from the Crypt episode. Is that even the bad ones, you're still watching it, and you're still like going, well, it's still worth a watch, right? And in this one, like I said, it has the moments, but there's not enough moments for you to go, well, that was a good episode. Well, for me. So this one's getting probably like 2 out of 5 creepy cackles. It doesn't really, it ain't getting any more than that, and it could easily get less than that. So let's move into episode 5. So episode 5 is called Top Billing. A struggling actor named Barry Bly, I think it is, played by John Lovitz, is repeatedly rejected for looking too plain. Driven mad by ambition, he murders his much more handsome rival, played by Bruce Boxleitner. That's a word. That's a name apparently. To steal the plum lead role in a Shakespearean play. Don't know why I said it like that. Only to discover his new acting troupe is a bit more method and macabre. Why can't I ever say macabre? I can't say that word, but you know exactly what I mean. Than he bargained for. Once again, Crypt Keeper. He looks good in a tux. He's all dressed up in a tux in this one. John Lovitz. Enough said. Nurse Ratchet. Enough said. There's some great people in this one, but sadly, another boring one to start. This is another episode. Sort of, it's a bit like the one before. It's very dialogue heavy, and in these sort of 2 episodes, it sort of feels like it's losing what Tales from the Crypt is, apart from shoving in there the moments that make you go, oh yeah, remember, it is Tales from the Crypt, so you've got to do it. And you've got to add something in there. The way that this one adds it in there is actually pretty good. But so many episodes, or the episodes that I'm watching sort of currently in this season at the moment, they are very dialogue heavy. They are very sort of story driven, but the story driven aspect of them, it, as I said, that anything that's relating to what we know as Tales from the Crypt or classic Tales from the Crypt, it feels almost a little bit like an afterthought, and feels a little bit like, well, let's put that in there because we know that we have to, because you know this episode could have literally easily have just been, John Lovitz is sad because he's not getting any roles, and then just goes around and murders people and stuff like that. And you can almost put that in other shows and so on like that. When it comes to Tales from the Crypt, the reason it makes it so, why it's so good and how I love it, is because the Tales from the Cryptness of it is what makes it so unique. And a lot of episodes sort of feel like they've lost that, and this is sort of one of them. You think when you've got John Lovitz and Nurse Ratchet and everybody else that you've got in this, you're going to get good performances, and guess what? You do. You get very good performances in this one, but it just, as I said, dialogue heavy. It's pretty boring. The music as well. like it really doesn't suit the episode. Like the music almost plays like an almost comedy aspect to it, and there is comedy, of course, in this. Is like, you know, there are a lot of light-hearted moments in this, but it still just sort of doesn't fit what is sort of happening. So the music sort of sucks in it. I mean, it's not, luckily it's not like other episodes where the music is insufferable and it's so annoying. It doesn't get to those levels, so don't worry about that. But it's just sort of, there's something about it that doesn't really suit the episode. And as I said, I already mentioned where it goes to the Tales of the Crypt thing, where they're like, oh, we've still got to make a Tales from the Crypt episode. The twist that they're essentially, you know, they're doing this play. He's trying to do this Shakespearean play. Obviously, he ends up killing somebody. You know, his rival to get the part, so to speak. I like the fact that after all of it, it ends up being that it's in a mental asylum, and I like that twist as well, because once again it adds that uniqueness to what Tales from the Crypt is. If you don't have that, you don't have Tales from the Crypt. So you spend the whole episode where you're like, this is actually pretty boring, too much dialogue, and then you're hit with the fact that it's very, you know, they're all in a mental asylum and they're trying to do a play in a mental asylum, and that, when that hits, then you're like, great, that's what the episode should be. And of course, it is a pretty sort of bloody episode as well. Like, it, you know, once again, you get the moments in Tales from the Crypt where it goes sort of heavy on the horror, and you get, you know, dead bodies, you get decapitation, so to speak, John Lovett's head in the trash. You know, you get the moments where it goes heavy on the horror every now and again in Tales from the Crypt, and this one does that. But you have to wait a very long time for it to get interesting or get to those moments, which once again happens quite a lot. But sadly, because of how boring it actually is, and how it's so dialogue heavy driven, and how literally it feels like nothing happens, or Tales from the Crypt like happens, until we get, you know, the decent reveal. It's not a good episode at all. It's like, I would actually say it's one of my least favorite episodes, because it just feels, once again, like it feels like it was something else that they ended up going, I've got like that, I've got this idea for something. Oh, well, you can make it into a Tales from the Crypt thing. How do you do that? We'll just shove this twist in. You've got a Tales from the Crypt thing. But nothing else about it feels very Tales from the Crypt. There's no ghosts, ghouls, goblins, monsters, all that sort of stuff. No voodoo in this one that I remember. You know, and then they just may turn it into a Tales from the Crypt episode, you know. So this is actually like one that I find really boring, which is a shame, because you've got really good, you know, actors in it doing a good job. This one actually gets 1 out of 5 creepy cackles, which is of course super low. I mean, at least we haven't added a 0 yet, but I don't know if I'm that horrible to give episodes 0. I mean, I can be horrible when it comes to rating and pretty harsh, but I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to give ones. I mean, you've got to be really shit if you're going to get a 0 out of 5 creepy cackles. But this gets 1. Anyway, let's move on to episode 6. So episode 6 is called Dead Weight. A ruthless crook, played by James Remar, travels to a politically unstable island to steal a rare black pearl from an ailing plantation owner, John Rhys Davies. He conspires with the owner's mistress to murder him for the treasure, only to be double-crossed by her, subsequently beheaded by a voodoo priestess, Whoopi Goldberg. The iconic Whoopi Goldberg is in this, who wanted his red hair for a tribal ritual. Now the Crypt Keeper, we've had him as a surgeon, we've had him in a tux. Now we've got him as a travel agent. It's brilliant. I mean, it's funny. What's mad is that those moments almost start becoming the best parts of the episode. We love it when we get the Crypt Keeper and his, you know, his puns and his crazy, creepy cackle. But, you know, now as we sort of like going from here further on in the series, he's becoming more of like the Crypt Keeper character that we know and love, and it's so funny just to see him dressing up in different things, and now he's a travel agent. This one as well is directed by Toby Hooper, which is super cool. You know, of course, the iconic director of many films, notably, of course, Tales from the Crypt and Poltergeist. Also, I always have to resist the urge to call him Tobe Hooper, because the way that his name is spelt is not the usual Toby spelling. So for years, I thought his name was Tobe Hooper, which is absolutely mental that I ever thought that, but that's life. But yeah, Toby Hooper directed this one. The sad part about it is that it. I sort of wish it wasn't, because it's not, once again, a great episode. It has a lot of the issues and the problems of what these episodes in this sort of episode, funnily enough, these three episodes I'm talking about so far, on this episode alone, all have a common theme that ends up being sort of a bit of a problem. But yeah, he's Crypt Keeper's a travel agent. Toby Hooper's directing. James Remar, of course, you all know him from a zillion things. Notably, once again, Dexter's dad. He's in this one. He's also pretty jacked. And some woman says that he has beautiful hair, which in this is part of the story. He has red hair in this. James Remar, as far as I'm aware, doesn't have bright red hair in real life, but in this one, yeah, he's got beautiful red hair. So another dialogue heavy episode. That's the problem with this one. Without much happening to start with, we keep on like slowly working our way through what is going to happen in these episodes. Whereas one of the things that Tales from the Crypt has done so well in the past is grip you from the beginning. A lot of the time, you have something that happens at the start, and then we work our way through the story, and then we get the twist at the end, and so on like that. But it almost, so far, with the current episodes I'm watching, it almost feels like it's like forgotten that, or lost that that's what Tales from the Crypt is. So now we keep on starting episodes where they just feel very dialogue heavy. You're getting so into essentially what almost feels like what the middle of it should be, but you're starting with it. So yeah, well, this is another one that opens up dialogue heavy. It feels like nothing really is happening much to start. Of course, the iconic Whoopi Goldberg is in this. And as I said, she loves James Remar's red hair. Whoopi Goldberg in this is very good as well. Like, I wish that, Whoopi Goldberg is great. Like, I've always been a big fan of Whoopi Goldberg. I mean, who doesn't love Sister Act? Of course, she's in Loaded Weapon as well, which is one of my favourite comedies ever. A comedy that is absolutely underappreciated. If you've never seen Loaded Weapon, which is basically their piss take of Lethal Weapon, with Emilio Estevez, Samuel Jackson, and Whoopi Goldberg, and loads of other things. It's one of the funniest movies I've ever seen. It's just a joke a second. It hurts when you watch this movie because you're laughing so much. I know that I am. But anyway, Whoopi Goldberg, go and watch Loaded Weapon, apparently. But with Whoopi Goldberg, I love Whoopi Goldberg, always have. But I do wish that she sort of took on more roles that was like this, because this is sort of quite a an interesting role, because it's a lot more serious. The way, the subject of what, or like the plot of what this movie is obviously, is serious. It's not a comedy. So you put her in that environment, then in this she isn't, she's not even really throwing in lines where it's just like, remember, Whoopi Goldberg's funny, so we've got to make her a bit funny. There's none of that in this with her performance, or what she's saying, or the writing, in the script for her. And I wish there was like more of that, because I think that, when you watch things like this, you're like, not only is Whoopi Goldberg, very good at what she does, but, give her the opportunity to do, I wish there was more of the opportunity of her being in more serious things at the time, at this time. I know later on, of course, she's appeared in things that are a lot more serious, but she is a fantastic. What even? I don't even know that word. She's a fantastic actress, and she shows it in this very well. To cut a long story short, she's brilliant in this, and as she always is. Why does it always feel like we keep having to wait halfway through an episode for things to start happening? Like I said, that's literally a note that I've written down, and I've already basically said that as well. It just feels like we have to wait ages for the things to happen in these episodes currently, because everything's all about just plot and exposition and just so much dialogue. There's a creepy bit where James Remar wakes up and there's a headless chicken in bed. Basically, there's a bit where he has a full-on sex scene with some woman. Once again, the over-sexualization of, she's got to be starkers, she's got to have her boobs out, all that sort of stuff. It is what it is, but yeah, they end up having a right old game of sex. Of course, you see it, and then he wakes up, dead, headless chicken next to him. So not the greatest wake up that he was hoping for after the night of sexual pleasure that he had. All round, everyone gives good performances in this. James Remar, of course, I've already said Whoopi Goldberg. Everyone is really good in this. Remar gets double crossed, which of course you can see a mile away, but Whoopi Goldberg saves the day. Well, until she decapitates him for his hair. You know, this is not an episode where you're like blindsided whatsoever. This is not an episode where you're sort of like, well, I wonder what's going to happen here. You bloody know what's going to happen in this episode, so it's not overly clever. So when the twist, the tales from the tales from the quist, bloody hell, I can't speak. The tales from the crypt twist happens. It doesn't have the impact that so many have had because you sort of already know where we're going to go. Like they set up the whole nice red hair thing like very earlier on in it, and nothing really happens. So you're like, well, that's going to come back at the end, and that's exactly what happens. So and also, it gets a little bit confusing this episode as well in regards to like where we're going, what's happening, all that sort of stuff. I don't know whether it's the editing, whether it's the filmmaking itself. I don't know, or it could just be the lack of like patience I sort of had with it. But once again, not a great episode, which really, really sort of sucks. It just it just falls flat. That's the problem. It just feels like it's lost the structure of what Tales from the Crypt is and has been so successful. And it's mad that all three of these episodes that I'm talking about on this episode, they've all been some of the worst episodes that I've seen of the series entirety so far, because they just feel so not Tales from the Crypt like. And what I mean by that, as I said, about the core structure of what makes the Tales from the Crypt, the uniqueness of what makes Tales from the Crypt. It feels like these episodes don't have that, or if they're trying to be Tales from the Crypt like, it feels forced, it feels shoved in because they know they have to do something to make it feel like Tales from the Crypt. And the funny thing is once again, when you are watching these episodes, you think you're watching one that's not like necessarily great, but then you watch the one afterwards and you watch the one after that, and then when I'm sitting here doing this, and then you start to think to yourself, actually the one that I thought wasn't that bad actually is better than what I thought. So that one feels more Tales from the Crypt than this one, even though you think to yourself that one didn't. So it's such an interesting series to go through, and it's such an interesting doing this as a process to sort of go through them individually, to talk about them individually, and then of course we go through the whole series. It's really interesting to sort of see per episode how I feel about episode per episode. Anyway, this one 2 out of 5 creepy cackles. There's not a load wrong with it if you're looking at it as an episode with like good performances and stuff, but as an episode that's supposed to sort of feel very Tales from the Crypt. Oh, and of course voodoo. You've got to. I mean, that's an episode with 2 episodes that I'm talking about, and they've got voodoo. It feels like that's their go-to to get out of, like a get out of jail free card, where they're like, once again, we've got to try and fit it into the Tales from the Crypt world. How do we do that? Voodoo. That's how they bloody do it. So yeah, 2 out of 5 creepy cackles. So I think that this episode has had the lowest rating of each episode that I've done on one of these episodes so far. So not a great one at all. Like, imagine that how I felt watching through them, doing all the prep for this one, and then I was sitting there watching 3 of them in a row. Bit of a slog this one was, but at the same time, like I've already said, you do still enjoy it. You still enjoy it because they're not so bad that you're like, this is the worst time I'm ever having. It's not that at all. But also, I am ranking them, so I've got to sort of be quite honest about them and so on, and critique them as much as an idiot like me who can't even say words like I've not been able to do throughout this episode. I've got to try and give you my honest thoughts on them. But anyway, that is another 3 episodes from season 3, and then we keep going from there until, as I say, we get to the end of Tales from the Crypt series, and then there's no more. Or will there be? Well, we'll find out about that, won't we? I'm sure down the line Tales from the Crypt will make a comeback, and I can only hope. And then I guess I'll have more episodes to do But there we go. Until next time, stay creepy, fuckers.